What Didn't Happen at the Millennium from the CCRU Writings. Iris Carver is at first amused to discover that the cyber goths treat her as a fiction. Numerous crypt texts describe her near-future adventures in hallucinatory detail, especially when they intersect with a dark stream of Sarkhan legend. Naturally enough, she intensifies her time cult research. When she finally meets Sarkhan in 2004, she has forgotten almost everything. Pandemonium. What Didn't Happen at the Millennium. There was something peculiar about writing this book. At times she thought it would never be finished. The Sarkhan stories have been full of holes, which add to the confusion. Eventually she started making things up, but even that became entangled with coincidence, and with cyber-goth hyperstition, assembled from fictional quantities which make themselves real. She had found herself investigating various Neo-Lemurian cults, most of whom anticipated something huge around about the 1999 spring equinox, when Pluto exits from the clutch of Neptune, triggering the return of the Old Ones. By the end of the century, things have been so wound up by Yatuk apocalypticism that even the most extravagant socio-economic turmoil would still have been a disappointment. And yet, now, 4 years after the millennium, the sense of anticlimax had begun to seem strangely artificial, as if it were screening something out. Carver has made her whole life out of hyperstition. Even her name is a pseudonym. She continuously returns to the imperceptible crossing where fiction becomes time travel, and the only patterns are coincidences. Her notes in the Sarkhan meeting pulse with Lemurian sorceries, demonic swarms, ageless time wars, and searches for the limbic key. She navigates Mobian circuits, feeling that a vaguely recollected rumor is still about to occur. Appendix: Pen-ultimillennial crypt cults. Characteristics: 1. Flatline materialism. The crypt is nothing outside an experiment in artificial death, hyperproduction of the positive zero plane, neuroelectronic immanence invested by continually reanimated thanatotechnical connectivism. This fact carries inevitable consequences for the cultures that populate it, uprooting them from unlife, or the non-zero of absolute betweenness, whose spiral dynamics of sorcerer's involvement are alone sufficient to reach the sub-mesh tracks of cyber-gothic continuum. Flatline materialism designates the objectless crypt voyage itself as Lemurian body fusion at matter degree 0. 2. Digital hyperstition. Nothing propagates itself through the crypt without realizing the operational identity of culture and machinery, effectively dismantling the organic body into numerizing particles which swarm in dislocated swirls. Crypt entities are both hypervortical singularities and units of digital hyperstition, or brands of the outside, real components of numerical fictions that make themselves real, providing the practical matter of sorcery, spirogenesis, or productive involvement that function consistently with a flatline. Crypt cultures know nothing of work or meaning. Instead, they coincide with the hype spirals, cyber hype, that flatten signs and resources into non-signifying triggers, diagrams, and assembly jargons. 3. Lesbo-vampiric contagion libido. Crypt sorcery makes itself real in the same way that it spreads. Functioning as a plague, it associates with experimental production of anticlimactic or anorgasmic counter-sexuality, attuned to the collective re-engineering of bodies within technobiotic assemblages, ultimately composed of electronic streams or ionic currents in their sense of positive whole flow. Since crypt sex is precisely identical to the infections it transmits, counted in body-shifting vectors, its libidinal composition is marked both by a paleoembryonic or oestrogenetic non-gendered femininity and a lateral hemometallic influenzoid virulence. 4. Y2K positive calendric agitation. Crypt cultures spill into the closed economy of history through a rupture in chronological ordering, punctually triggered at time 0. Crypt rumor consistently allocates its own contemporary emergence, or unearthing, to impending millennial cyber skits. Cyberspace time disintegration under the strategically aggravated impact of Y2K missile, whilst multiplying differentiated, most crucially, by the division between continuism and sentience, Crypt calls are constitutively involved in a singular nexus of counter-Gregorian calendric subversion, celebrating the automatic redating of the machinic unconscious, and hyping the dissolution of commemorative significance into digital time mutation, catalyzed by numerical and indexical operative signs. The crypt exists from before the origin of time, but it begins at year 0.